So what I want to do is to talk to you a little bit about the active speaker process. You may remember, or maybe there's somewhere you can link to, where you can where you can hear my discussion about why we think that active and DSP speakers are the best approach to making speakers. Meridian's been making speakers that way for quite a long time. As Roland pointed out, at the end we have an in-wall system which has the electronics built in. But we decided for this in-wall range that the electronics would be separate, and that's partly just a system architectural issue. But we're able to do it in a way which gives very, very high performance. Each of these 300 series speakers can be bi-amplified by the special amplifier which is called G41, which I'm showing you here. G41 contains 8 channels of amplification, but also the crossovers and equalization modules which are needed to effectively turn these systems into active speakers. In addition to that, the amplifier has adjustable output impedance so that you can perfectly compensate for the cable. So the fact that we have the electronics at a distance from the speaker is no longer a problem. So this combination of this product, which can power up to 5 of our in-wall systems, and the speaker, makes a true active speaker in the Meridian sense. It's got an active crossover, separate power amplifier for the tweeter, separate power amplifier for the bass mid, and so on. All the features that make a great active speaker. You'll probably notice, you may be able to see, that the crossover for the speaker plugs in here, so that when the speaker comes, you choose the right crossover, which is matched individually to the speaker itself, depending on which model it is and so on. So that's the architecture. The architecture is a bit different, but it's still an active speaker system. One of the things that makes this series quite unusual is that, in the first place, Meridian doing a high-performance in-wall speaker system is a major step. When we decided we wanted to do that, we spent a long time figuring out how to get the quality of our floor-standing speakers into the wall. Lots of people make in-wall speakers. They all sound...
Or speakers that go in the wall, basically.
Yeah, they don't sound very good. Our goal was to try to provide the dynamics, the detail, the low coloration, the quality, the imaging of a Meridian speaker with something that would operate in the wall. And that's very, very hard to do. There are a number of challenges to that, and I think probably if we could...
You want to try and lug this out?
Are you going to do it, or am I going to do it?
I'll try and get it.
Yeah. The first thing you'll notice is that the speaker is incredibly heavy, and that's part of the design.
It's not a... You want to show it on the side, or you want to...
That's okay, I can turn it. So what we're looking at here is the 350 in-wall speaker.
It's a real heavyweight, let me tell you.
The active speaker taken out of the wall. If you go to the other interview there is with me about speakers, about active and digital speakers, you'll notice that I was talking a lot about the dynamic integrity of sound, about natural sound, and about how important it is that the loudspeaker is mechanically robust and tight. In order to have high quality sound, we want to make sure that the only things you hear are the noises coming from the drive unit, not from the cabinet, and in the case of an in-wall, not from the wall. So part of the reason we've made this heavy is that it braces the wall and doesn't vibrate. But that's not the only reason. A speaker has to be heavy in order that when the cone moves, the speaker itself doesn't vibrate. But it also has to be rigid. I think you can see here the construction of this. This is built from aluminium extrusion, which is welded. So the frame itself is very strong and very heavy. And on the back and the front, we're using panels which are constructed in the same way as we construct our floor-standing speakers. In fact, I don't know if you can get in to show a shot of this, but here's a cutaway of the construction of the top of the DSP 8000. And in here you can see how we use multiple layers of wood and metal and damping material to produce a cabinet which is very, very rigid. And we do that so that the only sounds you hear are coming from here and not from the cabinet itself. That's important. So in this in-wall system, we have the same construction at the back and the front. So the speaker itself is very, very strong, free from vibration. Now, in-wall speakers have some other problems to overcome. One is the fact that it's very shallow. Normally when you build a loudspeaker, one of the things you have to take great care about is that, okay, sound can come, can I turn it? Sound can come out the front, but of course it also goes out the back. And that sound can then bounce from the back of the speaker and come back out again, and introduces distortion and coloration. In these speakers, we've developed a very, very high performance dispersive absorption material that goes inside the speaker. And also we've designed drivers that have particular properties suited to the in-wall activity. For example, the cones here are metal cones. They're made from magnesium aluminium alloy, which has got damping material on it. And we use that in part because it's a very good cone, but it's also very, very opaque. And that means that sounds inside the box don't come out the front. That's critical. We also have very, very powerful motor systems. There's huge magnets and specially wound coils to give a lot of magnetic force. That's necessary for damping, but also because an in-wall speaker, which is so shallow, which you want to be efficient, has to have a very powerful motor. The other thing that's a challenge in an in-wall speaker is that you can't position it exactly where you want it to be. You know, with a stereo system, you can toe in the speakers until you get perfect imaging. That's not possible with an in-wall. Speakers are flat on the wall. And so the requirements for tweeter, high-frequency radiation, are completely different. And we've developed this tweeter, which is a ribbon, horn-loaded, with a very particular radiation pattern. And that gives us two things. First of all, it gives very uniform illumination of the room at high frequencies. So wherever you sit, you hear the tweeter the same. Wherever you sit, you hear the mid-range and bass the same, because these drivers don't have that sort of, those wavelengths don't have that kind of directivity issue. In addition, by having a horn, we end up with a very low velocity of sound coming through the grill. If you have a very small tweeter, there's a very high velocity. The impedance is wrong. And one of the things about an in-wall speaker is that people like to put sometimes fabric in front of it or different finishes. And by going for this kind of dispersive characteristics, the speaker is much less affected by what we put in front of it. In fact, it sounds really quite remarkable. And yes, we have passive bass radiators which are controlled and interacted with by the electronics of the amplifier.
I think what we should say to our readers that, this is an excellent presentation, very technical, that they should go now out and listen to it for themselves. Listening is seeing is believing. Listening, I think, will be believing on this.
Well, that's right. I mean, the benefit, the sound that this gives is extraordinary. We're proud to call it a Meridian speaker, and I think that's the biggest thing we can say about it, because we're able to put a speaker in the wall that makes music delicate, detailed, but also with tremendous punch and dynamics.
It's a big step forward for in-wall. Bob, thank you very much for this explanation. Roland, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to seeing these in the market very soon.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Thank you.